Hello garden friends. Today I wanted to share the garden with you. It's looking beautiful, lush, almost overwhelming, and we are about to get a lot of produce. I have a pumpkin plant that is deciding to take over the whole garden. It's been a while since I grew pumpkins, and now I remember how much space they take up. This is one pumpkin plant, and it's monstrous. My daughter cannot even get to her little garden because the pumpkin has just taken up this whole entire path. Part of me was ready to start ripping it out because it was just too overwhelming, but it started to produce fruit. We have one little pumpkin plant right here, and this is a sugar pie pumpkin, so this will be a great eating pumpkin. And we have another pumpkin right there. So for now I'm gonna just let it do its thing and push my way through all the leaves to get back here. Back here we have an Aunt Molly ground cherry plant that is doing fantastic. Big, lush, and beautiful. The flowers in this garden are growing wonderfully. And I do have a watermelon plant growing back here, and we do have one little watermelon starting to grow. Kind of looking like a peach with that butt in it. So the cucumber plant is looking a little sad. A lot of the new growth is looking pretty good, so I don't know if I should rip these out or just let them go, but I do have a few cucumbers I can harvest. This one, it's a little funky looking due to uneven watering. And I do have this big one back here. That looks very beautiful. This is the best time of the garden because you come out not expecting to find any food, and alas, you find food. This is a zucchini plant, squash plant, whatever you want to call it. And it is massive, and it is so healthy still. I've probably harvested at least 12 squash off this plant. So let's see if there's any hiding that could be harvested today. So let's move on to the stars of the show. We have lots of fruit set on our tomato plants, and we're gonna get to harvesting very soon. We have just some beautiful green fruit. Lily. The only plant showing any sign of stress and disease is this Paul Robeson plant I have here. The leaves are just dying back on it. So I have been cutting off some of the bad leaves, and I'm just hoping to at least get one good harvest of fruit off of it. This year the basil has been going crazy. I've at least dehydrated 2 batches worth of 5 trays. I've done a freeze-dried batch of 4 trays. So it is just growing and growing. And I think it's liking all the rain we're getting. And I just keep harvesting it before it starts to flower, so that way I get a perpetual harvest off of it. These tomatoes over here are my pink fangs, and they're starting to get long and beautiful. It's hard to get a good photo of one of them. My hand for comparison of how big they're getting. We have zinnias throughout the garden because I realize it doesn't always just have to be produce, that there can be some beauty in here as well. And there's definitely a lot of beauty. I did have this cabbage covered, but it has just been riddled with bug damage. I'm just letting this here so it gets the brunt of the bug damage, while I have 2 cabbages over here covered with little to minimal bug damage. I am successing sowing some zucchini, and here is a plant I planted about 3 weeks ago, and it's looking very beautiful and soon gonna be, ooh, it might have already set some fruit. So the majority of this bed is being taken up by an acorn squash, and that is a winter variety that is gonna take up this whole bed for the duration of summer because it needs to harden. But I have an adorable little acorn squash right here. And it's just a healthy, beautiful looking plant. Over in this bed I have beans, flowers. I had some extra Aunt Molly ground cherry plants, so I just popped them over here because I didn't really have any plans for this. This was an impromptu moment. And everything over here is doing really well. I also just decided to throw some corn seeds in because even if we don't harvest any corn, we can use the stalks as decorations for the fall. But I am hoping to get at least an ear or two of corn because I know you need a few of them because they pollinate each other. Our bean plants. Seeing if there's any beans to harvest. Almost. Over here I have this small empty garden bed that I'm going to put fresh soil on and maybe do some beans over here. I don't know, I have some extra tomato plants that I got rooted from suckers, so I don't know if maybe I'll put those here. But I also have this volunteer squash plant that I'm just letting do its thing. This bed is very overgrown and needs some help, but that is just the life of the garden right now. I have pepper plants hiding under the tomato plants, but they are beautiful and lush. And I don't know, setting some fruit. Back here we have our San Marzano aromas. I had a few of them showing some blossom end rot. Oh, this one might be doing that. Nope, that's just a leaf blossom. And I just plucked those off. I don't normally plant San Marzanos because I do have that issue with them. So here's hoping that's done with. Hey puppers, how you doing? So it's finally happening, guys. We're starting to get some tomatoes ripening. So these aren't ready exactly yet, but they're beautiful. Ooh, maybe there's one that's ready. I think the raspberry bush is getting to be almost on its way out until September. I've been harvesting at least a cup a day of raspberries, and what we're not eating I'm freezing because I am hoping to make some raspberry jam. I'm going to strain it to try to get the extra seeds out. But look at these, so beautiful. I need to get out here and actually do another harvest because I did not come out here last night. The little one has been sick and it's just been a bit overwhelming. The raspberries have been doing really good this year. Last year, I know I pruned it back way too far because I barely got a summer harvest, but I did get a fall harvest. So this is an ever-bearing variety, and if you want to start growing your own berries, I really recommend trying raspberries because this is a very forgiving plant, very low maintenance. This obviously needs trimmed, but it's just producing. It grows wild, it grows crazy. One of my favorite varieties of tomatoes to grow are these alpaca Roma tomatoes. I got them off of M.I. Gardener and I just grow them every year. They have a traditional Roma shape, but they also just have a bit of variation to it, and I think they produce very well. It looks like I already have to harvest my basil again. It's been very hard to keep up with it. And I also need to do some pruning. It has been raining a lot here in central Pennsylvania, and I just have not been able to keep up with the bushiness of the plants. They're healthy. I've been trying to make sure they have adequate airflow down here, but I still have to go back and do some pruning. Over here I have some striped Roma tomatoes, and I'm very excited about that. I like to grow different varieties. I like to grow varieties you're not going to be able to find in your local supermarket, because that makes it more interesting. It makes it more fun for me, and it just feels like a more unique experience in my garden. So I had a bit of a mishap with labeling my peppers this year. I put them in thinking, yeah, I'll remember where I put them. Well, shame on you, Pat Sam, because you clearly do not know which peppers are which. I know what a few are. These ones back here are my red Marconi. And I know I have jalapenos over here. And I put a lemon drop right here. Get out of here, pumpkin plant. And it is loaded down with fruit and looking beautiful. And over here is one of my violet sparkles. And it has a few different fruiting plants on it. Oh, there's a very purple one right here that's very pretty. Over here, this is either a lipstick or I forget what the other one is. It's something that has a very similar shape to it. Over here is some jalapenos. I think this is another jalapeno plant. Yeah, I think so. I'll find out when I bite into it. Over here is a korobaki plant because it just has a very distinct pepper shape to it. These will turn orange and red, and it is just loaded down with fruit, very healthy. And the tomatoes are poking through, trying to come in on the other side of the cage. And I just have to do some pruning. And this variegated variety is the fish pepper. And it is also loaded down with fruit. I have a basil hiding back here. This one is also, I believe, the fish pepper. Some of them are losing like the variegation on their leaves, but I know I planted two right beside each other. Up in the front of the bed, surrounded by flowers. Beautiful flowers, might I add. I have some shishito peppers that I'm excited to try. Let's actually give them a try. So I wanted to make sure shishito peppers weren't a hot pepper before I started harvesting them. And I read that this plant can have like a fluke pepper on it every once in a while, like 1 in 10, 1 in 20 will be hot. So let's see if I got a hot one. Oh. I know people fry these peppers, so I love peppers. All kinds of peppers. They are my favorite. Tomatoes, peppers are my favorite. And then add some garlic and onions, and you have my trifecta. Well, that's more than 3. Not a trifecta. Quadrifecta. So here I have some calendula. So over here I have some calendula growing, and I have that growing throughout the garden. And my goal with this is I plan on... So I've been harvesting the flowers, and I am drying them out so I can then put those flower petals in oil and let the medicinal benefits seep into that oil, and so I can make soap with it, I can make lip balm with it. Just finding different ways to use the garden, use the flowers. Over here the potatoes haven't gotten too big. I'm not sure if it has anything to do with not mounding more soil on. Maybe I didn't bury them super deep. I'm not sure what it is. But I have potatoes in different parts of the garden that have really bushed up, have really grown a lot. So I'm just waiting for the foliage to die back so we can get big harvests of potatoes. Seeing if I can find any friends. There's a little friend. Gonna bury you down because I don't need you right now. Over here I have the tomatillos. And we have the husks forming. The fruit are inside, going to be getting bigger. This zinnia was just one plant and has taken up this whole entire section. I have another pumpkin plant in this bed, and I think it's leaving. I don't think I'm gonna let it stay. I might try to put it out front where it's not gonna get in the way, but I don't think I can manage another pumpkin plant just taking up the whole entire garden space. These are the Jack B. Littles. Over here I have the onions. They're starting to lay over, so that means soon they're going to be ready to harvest. These were from onion sets, so they're not going to be the biggest onions, but they're still onions that I grew in the backyard, which I'm very satisfied about. And to be honest, they're pretty decent. I have a pea plant here doing pretty well, so I'm going to harvest some of these. I let one of them start going to seed so I can harvest them and replant them. So I might have an alternative for this pumpkin plant. Instead of letting it grow out this way, I might try to wedge it through the fence because it's technically still our property. We're just not allowed to put our fence right up against the edge of our property. And maybe I'll lay down some cardboard so weeds can't grow around it and just let it bush out that way. I don't know, we'll see if I can do that. This is one of the hay bales that I had plants growing in. I need to stake up this tomato plant because it is also just growing out into the middle of the path. I came in to show you the garden, and you know, it may not be neat and tidy right now, but this is my true garden. This is what my garden's looking at like right now. And I have 2 kids. They take priority. This is something that brings me a lot of passion. It's a hobby of mine, but it's not gonna be the elegant Instagram gardens that you see because there's still other things going on. This is something that I use to feed my family, that brings me happiness, that brings me joy, but it's also a bit of a jungle out here, and I'm okay with that. I want to thank you for joining me in the garden. It is very empowering, very exciting to see that less than 2 months ago, there was very little to no green in the garden. It was just what I had transplanted to the garden or started from seed. And literally now it's just overgrown. It's full of growth, it's full of life, and that's what I love to see. That's why I love to garden, because all this I started from seed. So if gardening is something you want to do, it's something you have interest in, just get some seeds, just get a plant start and grow something. It doesn't have to be a huge garden like this. You can get a 5-gallon bucket. I have a video where all you have to do is get a $1 5-gallon food grade bucket from Walmart, some soil, and a plant of your choice, and you can start gardening. You don't need land to garden. You just need soil, seeds, patience, water, and time. Thanks for joining me in the garden. If you like this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. And if you are growing this season, what's the favorite thing you're growing this year? What are you most excited about? And if you don't have a garden yet, what would you want to grow? If you want to see more from me in the future, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you guys. Until next time.